People are probably very aware of things like DMX, streaming ACN, and RDN.
We have an ambitious goal to define the next generation.
We did a survey to kind of get a feeling for what people felt they were missing.
The way that DMX data is transmitted is not really the way that users think about the things that they're controlling.
The entirety of the project has been driven from the results of that survey.
Think about real world things like intensity, color, pan, tilt.
We can create a much more sophisticated platform that will mean that the production workflow can be improved significantly.
If you're a power user and you have experience editing fixture libraries on a console or something like that, then you might want to read this. We are starting to get a lot more representation from automation control companies and video. We are taking their perspectives into account.
We are working on finding a name for this standard.
If you hear E1.73 or UDR or Next Gen Library, they all refer to the same thing.
It would be great if you have any amazing ideas. We would love to hear from you. I'm Dan Murfin.
And I'm Sam Kearney, and we are both members of ESTA's Technical Standards Program. We have kind of an ambitious goal right now to define the next generation of entertainment control protocols in our industry.
It's been in the works for probably about 4 or 5 years now. People told us that they needed to be able to describe fixtures better. They told us that they wanted to be able to have much better bidirectional communication. Another thing that the user told us they wanted was security. Right now, our standards don't have any security at all. It's possible for somebody to put a controller on the network and essentially take over a show, for an example. We're aiming to have a platform where all the devices are able to mesh and communicate together. And ultimately, this gives a better user experience because you're not having to configure things in 4, 5, maybe 10 different places. Everything stays in sync constantly. It really opens up a lot of opportunities for new creative experiences, for time saving, and for generally making our control systems better.
Yeah, so we're trying to build the platform that will last us for the next decade or a few decades. There is a bit of an emphasis on lighting in the current draft. The value we deliver at first for video and audio and automation will be in configuring various parameters of that equipment, and you will probably still use the same third-party protocol that you might use now to send audio or video streaming to those devices.
We have representatives from large users, manufacturers of controllers, of lighting fixtures. We have representatives of automation companies. So there's a lot of people out there that are involved in this project, visualizer manufacturers as well. So we've got a really wide spectrum of people that are interested in this project, in making things work for the industry. Yes, this is a library standard, but it is part of a bigger thing. There have been a lot of people involved in developing this so far. And so we've been trying to think how things might work in the future.
ESTA standards generally take longer than proprietary formats or formats that are released by a few manufacturers. But when they are complete, they have a higher likelihood of representing the consensus of a wider portion of the industry, and people's voice has a higher likelihood of being heard.
The existing library formats are really quite heavily tied to DMX. It's really key that we are able to break away from DMX to do this. We have representatives from almost all of those existing library developers out there right now. Well, we don't actually know yet. Naming is really hard. Most of the people involved in writing these standards are not marketing people. And so we would really appreciate any great ideas that anyone has.
The public review process is a process that all ESTA standards go through. The draft of the standard is published in a public place. Anyone at all can read the standard and send in comments on it. There are still some things that we need to finish, so it's not completely done yet. So there will definitely be another public review in the future, probably sometime next year.
It gives everybody the opportunity to comment. It's an open process, and ESTA and the Technical Standards Program is held to account by ANSI, which is a recognized standards body. So we're required to answer all of these things and to make this as good as we can.
If you submit a public comment on the public review, it will be considered by the task group that people will weigh its pros and cons and come up with a resolution.
It ensures that we have an open process that works for the whole industry.
If you're a power user and you have experience building, like editing fixture libraries on a console or something like that, then you might want to read this.
Even if you don't read the data model, even if you go through each of the parameters and say, oh, this is intensity, right, okay, I get this, or this doesn't make sense. No, this is not how a user thinks of controlling intensity. So you could read that completely without thinking about the data model. So I think that's something that users could do.
I would also add that you should encourage your favorite manufacturers to participate, because we need to get participation from the people who will be implementing this format. The public review period is open until December 12th. So before or on that date, you need to submit your comments using the form that you can find on the TSP website at tsp.esta.org.